Hey guys, my name is Matsumoto, and welcome to our episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you'd like to submit your own question that can be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook or Twitter message. The first question for today comes from Jared, and it is, what if Frost had the ability to change the skin of her frost mats? Giving players the ability to have wood, concrete, or carpet skins will make her traps more viable than they currently are. So I will agree with you that Frost could probably use an upgrade. She did get a damage buff on both of her primary weapons recently, but it was pretty insignificant. I don't even really think that most people even noticed the change. Now, thankfully, Ubisoft has admitted that they're not really happy with the way that her gadget performs in a recent AMA because of how binary it is. They explained that either it's worthless in a match, no one steps on it and really doesn't slow anyone down, or it has a significant impact on a match because someone gets trapped and it's basically a free takedown. It's a free kill for the defensive team. This is the same problem that CanCan had back in the day. Yes, he had the ability to one-shot operators with his gadget, but because it was incredibly obvious because of the red laser sight that went across a doorway or a window, no one fell for his trap. Either it was worthless, which was usually a majority of the time, or it had a significant impact. Now, they've changed him, of course, where it's now much harder to detect his traps, but to offset that, to make sure it's not blatantly overpowered, it only does a fair amount of damage. Now, the question is, though, is how are they going to be able to solve this same problem with Frost? One idea I had is similar to what you described in your question, is to make her traps harder to see, make them harder to detect, either with a camouflage system or by simply just making them smaller, maybe not having a gigantic black box that people can just find or step on. But then on top of that, instead of it just one-shotting players or putting them in down but not out state, when someone steps on it, it does a significant amount of damage like CanCan does, but then maybe roots them in that position until they go through a short animation to kind of separate their leg from the frost trap. The reason why I like this idea is that it solves a bunch of the problems that we just talked about. In theory, because the traps are now harder to see, they should be going off a lot more frequently, solving that problem, but to ensure that they don't become blatantly overpowered, it only does damage, but then snares them in that one position. It could also add in some really new interesting situations that we currently don't have right now. If I step in one of these traps, I then need to make the choice. Do I try to go through the animation so that I can move around and I'm not just standing in one spot and completely vulnerable? Or do I wait for someone potentially who was in the wings waiting for that frost trap to activate to round the corner and try to take them out? You would still, I would imagine, be able to retaliate even though you are in that one position. You're not in the down but not out state. You're going to be able to retaliate, and so that would add in some really interesting new dynamics that we don't really currently have right now. The issues I have with this idea, though, is, first of all, how are they going to make the traps harder to see? If they do want to go the Legion route, where they just make it invisible with that kind of blurry fuzziness around it, that is one way they could handle it, but my problem with that is that I don't want it to get to the point where Rainbow Six Siege is just filled with a bunch of invisible gadgets. I feel like that would eventually just get obnoxious. Like, there's only so much intelligence you can gather at the start of the match, and to fall into one of these traps because they're simply invisible doesn't sound like it would be all that enjoyable to go against. The problem is, though, is that if they don't go the invisible routes, how do you ensure that they are challenging to detect and that people will eventually step in them? Do you just get rid of the black box that we currently have right now and just make it kind of like a smaller metal structure, like a normal bear trap? I don't really know, but that would be one thing they'd have to consider. The other issue with this is that this basically just sounds like an improved CanCan trap. It does damage, but the added benefit is that it snares them in the position. Why in the world do you ever want to play as CanCan anymore? Well, one way they could offset this is that maybe it doesn't do as much damage, or she just simply doesn't have as many traps that she can have scattered around the map. That would be another thing they'd have to consider. And so all in all, while I realize I deviated from your question a bit, I was up late last night thinking of how Ubisoft could improve or change Frost to the better, but I do agree with you that something needs to be done. They could go the direction that you said, where they try to make her traps a little bit more camouflage, or they could go in the direction that I thought of to try to make her a little less binary. Let me know what you guys think about this, though. Do you have any ways that you think that Ubisoft could improve Frost for the better to make her a more viable operator in the future? Do you like the way that she works right now and you wouldn't want to see any changes? Give me your guys' thoughts down below. The next question comes from Tyler, and it is, what if they made an operator that was 3 speed, 1 armor on offense that had superheated rounds that could shoot through reinforcements? So I realize a lot of people like this idea because I get this question all the time, but I've never really liked it. The only way that I could see this operator being somewhat effective is not necessarily to shoot people through walls, but to deal with gadgets that are behind said reinforcements. So instead of bringing a Twitch drone to zap the mute jammer or using an EMP to take care of the bandits' batteries, you just flat out shoot them through the wall. Maybe you have an IQ that will mark them for you so you know their exact position and you're not just trying to kind of guess where they are. But that would really be the only way that I could see this operator having really any influence on a match. You might be thinking, well, wait a second, you could shoot someone through a wall. Like if Bandit is going for the bandit trick, you might be able to get a lucky headshot against him. But that's the thing though, you would need to be incredibly lucky. How often do you get wall bangs in Rainbow Six Siege? Like, don't get me wrong, it does occur, but it's definitely not the norm. Like, not most players are not getting wall bangs on people they simply cannot see every single round. On top of that, I would imagine that this gadget would be for a limited amount of rounds. Maybe you only get like 1 or 2 mags worth and then you're out. And so not only do you need to get lucky, but you need to be lucky within that short window because you only have so many rounds to work with. The other reason why I don't really like this idea is that if you are able to deal damage against someone, they can't deal damage against you. I never really liked the idea of not being able to retaliate. What does the person do on the receiving end? They're getting shot through a reinforced wall, they can't shoot back. Like, that doesn't seem like the most enjoyable gameplay mechanic. And so while I do like the idea of having another way to deal with the bandit trick, I don't really know if I'm on board with this idea. It could be a cool way for us to take out gadgets, but I feel like there could be a better way for Ubisoft to go about it and not have us shoot through reinforced walls, which are meant to be our defensive gadget for the defensive team. The next question is, what do you think about being able to activate remote gadgets while being on camera/drones? Yes, this might be frustrating to get taken out by a nitro cell when you're trying to open up a barricade, but this could change up the meta a bit. I feel like you just answered your own question here. This would be very difficult and frustrating to deal with if you were going against even a halfway decent Valkyrie. All the Valkyrie player would need to do is place their camera above where they assume offense is going to be coming from, have the nitro cell directly below it, and then watch that camera for anyone to come on over. As soon as they realize that the nitro cell is directly below an enemy, they just press a button and they pretty much get a free kill. That doesn't sound like something I want in Rainbow Six Siege. Now, I know some might argue, hey, you can actually already do this with a little bit of teamwork. But that's the thing, though. It requires some teamwork and some coordination to pull that off. You need someone to be in your cameras making the appropriate call out, and a lot of things can happen with that interaction. Either your teammate gets distracted because they're getting pushed from a different direction, either they just make a bad call out, they don't know exactly where the C4 is. There's also that delay. They might get the call out wrong, or you just don't press the button at the right time because you're busy. A lot can happen. It would just be a lot easier to sit in the camera, wait, and then press the button as soon as you notice that that window opens. I don't really know if that's something that I want in Rainbow Six Siege. Now, of course, this could be used for other applications. If you're playing as Fuse, you could drone out the objective, see where they are, and then as you notice someone pass directly under it, you could activate your gadget. But once again, that doesn't sound like something I really want. Like, there should be a little bit of a delay between being able to use your gadget and having perfect intelligence. Who knows? Maybe I'm the odd one out here and a lot of you guys really like this idea. But personally, I like it when there's some interaction between offense and defense. I like it when I'm on offense, I know why I lost or what I could have done better. To get taken out of seemingly nowhere and not even being able to hear what took me out or having really any indication that it was going to to happen doesn't sound like the best gameplay loop. But of course, that just is my 2 cents. The next question comes from Twin Fusion, and it is, what if we could have a refund system in Rainbow Six Siege? It works just like the one from Fortnite. All you do is return something you bought with Renown or maybe Rainbow Six credits. I am on board with that 100%. Now, I will admit, I don't really know what Ubisoft's refund policy is right now, but I think it'd be great either a couple of times an account or maybe every couple of months if you bought something with Rainbow Six Siege credits. I don't really think this needs to extend to Renown, but really, would it hurt that much if you could only do it a couple of times? If you had the ability to refund said items and get your credits back. Maybe you bought a bundle you weren't going for. You were trying to buy a different bundle. Or when you actually purchased something and then saw it on your character, you realized it wasn't to your liking at all. It'd be cool if there was a way for you to get those credits back. That just seems like a consumer-friendly way of going about it. Now, once again, I don't know Ubisoft's current policy on it, but I really can't see any downsides of this. I'm assuming they would need to limit it a couple of times an account because having a refund all the time would be ridiculous. Like, at the end of the day, they still need to make money. But yeah, I think that this would be great. But yeah, guys, that is what it for today's episode of Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. Give me your thoughts on what we discussed in today's video. Would you like the idea to be able to activate gadgets while droning? Are you not on board with that idea? Let me know down below in the comments. As always, if you'd like to submit your own question for an upcoming episode, you can also leave a comment or by sending me a Facebook or Twitter message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.